This lighting is kind of weird, but okay. Chapter 3: Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, and Consciousness. That's the title of Chapter 3. You are not who you think you are, this strawman individual with a first and last name and a social security number. Rather, you are the observer of this person. Phone. So I'm not Stephen Miller. I am. Stephen Miller is observing this phone. But I am not Stephen Miller. I am the awareness observing Stephen Miller observing the phone. You are the awareness, the consciousness that knows all. You are the son and daughter of the Most High, the God that controls the universe, who is omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient, and who can control a traffic light to stop an accident, or perform divine intervention and control a person's desire to kick your ass and rob you at gunpoint and kill you for selling drugs, because that's what happened to me. And I'm not going to get into that story, but what I'm saying is that is the power of consciousness. Without your God-given consciousness, you would not be able to process the spelling of your own name, or digest the food that you eat and make sure that your blood sugar levels are regulated, or that the trillions of cells in your body receive the sufficient amount of nourishment that they need to keep you healthy. You would not be able to retain this information for your mind and memory and awareness and free will are gifts. So let's dissect that for a little bit. There is so much not intelligence, I guess you can call it intelligence, but there's just so much divine intelligence, just knowing, holiness, completion, that's going on with your body, with your cells, when you're drinking some orange juice, or you're eating some food or whatever. It's processing to your trillions of cells of nutrients that are adequate in the adequate amounts, and the non-adequate amounts goes, you know what I mean? And then, why do we have to retain so much information? Why are we constantly recording? Like, your mind is constantly recording. Why are we constantly recording? We can't turn this recording off. So we're absorbing all this information, and we have to sift through it with first principle thinking. But it's not like we are. I mean, we have 70 thoughts in a day. It's not like it's an overabundant and ostentatious amount of thoughts. It is, but it's not like it's not bringing us down in energy because we have to sift through all these thoughts. They're just natural. So a lot of this stuff is just flowing. It's flowing through our life, right? If you look at an athlete, growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, LeBron was a huge athlete. I mean, the way he moved on the court, passing, shooting, dunking, all that stuff, he was in flow state. So this is an exercise that we're going to start doing, are these flow states. I was an athlete. Soccer was my sport, but I played other sports, football in different countries. I've entered flow state several times, and it is just a knowingness. So that's one of our missions, is to do these exercises that allow us to access flow state so we can perform at our peak. Let's start with the basics. In the 1970s, in an effort to determine what the smallest building block to life is, scientists hypothesized that it was the atom. That was the smallest building block to all things matter. In other words, they thought that the smallest common denominator building block that makes up everything physical, was in fact the atom. So they used their current microscopes at the time using maximum magnification and noticed the atom vibrating. But since that was all that they could zoom in to, they concluded that atoms were the smallest physical building block. As technology progressed, other scientists placed this theory to the test, but what they realized was that the atom was made up of three components: the nucleus, protons, and electrons. What was also fascinating was that the electrons and the protons were moving around the nucleus, held in orbit, just like planets orbiting around the sun. But why were the smallest particles known to man in constant motion? Why were the protons and the electrons moving without stopping? Or why were they not solidified to the nucleus? Why were they not solid to the nucleus? With these questions feeding their curiosity, it was not until the early 90s that scientists realized, with the advancement of microscopes, that it was in fact not the atom, but rather it was the electron that was the smallest building block to life, so they concluded. Yet again, this fascination kept feeding their curiosity, and it wasn't until the last 15 to 20 years that scientists today, with the help of cutting-edge microscopes, have found that when zooming into an electron, instead of seeing what was previously perceived to be alliteration to be an entire electron, is in fact completely empty. I'll say that part again. In the last 15 to 20 years, with cutting-edge microscopes, scientists have found that when zooming into an electron, instead of seeing what was previously perceived to be an entire electron, is in fact completely empty. When zooming into an electron, scientists have found that there was nothing there. I'll repeat that. There was nothing there when they zoomed into the electron. How does everything we touch feel like it is solid then? Moreover, why is everything in constant motion, even at the molecular level? As we covered in the previous video, everything we perceive to be physical is actually not physical, but rather in motion at the molecular level and the quantum level. Everything is built up of neutrons, protons, and electrons, atoms, that are moving and vibrating at a very, very high speed. And that's why it feels solid. 1 nanosecond, an electron can be in this location, the other second it can be at this location. But because it's moving so rapidly, the moment that it's here and goes here, it's already here. And it's already here. And it's already here. It's already here. So because it is moving so rapidly back and forth in the same time, that it moves from one location to the next and is back to where it originally was, and that's why it feels solid. What gives something you see a different color or texture or look or feel, smell, taste, and hear is the frequency that those particles are vibrating at. It's the shape that they are vibrating at, the motions that they are vibrating at. They're not physical. It's just divine intelligence, I guess. At the frequency, what gives something you see a different color or texture, look, feel, smell, taste, and hear is the frequency that those particles are vibrating at. The frequency causes alignments of different molecules. The frequency causes the alignments of different molecules. Remember, those particles are moving very, very quickly, back and forth, which makes them seem, the illusion, like they are solid, but they are actually not solid. They are moving. A chair if you sit on, a couch, the car you drive, the clothes you wear, and yes, even the money you have is a frequency that is vibrating, moving back and forth. Remember, there is nothing solid to the electron, which is what was perceived to be the smallest physical thing we could see with our eye. Newtonian physics, thermodynamics, and quantum physics. Newtonian physics, founded by Isaac Newton, describes laws that govern the transfer of energy in the physical realm. I'm not a physicist, but for a quick recap, Newtonian's basic laws of motion are: an object at rest remains at rest. An object in motion remains in motion at a constant speed and in a straight line unless acted on by an unbalanced force. The acceleration of an object depends on the mass of the object and the amount of force applied. So there's three. An object at rest remains at rest. An object in motion will stay at motion in a straight line unless acted upon another object, and then the acceleration of an object depends on the mass of the object and the amount of force applied to it. That's the Newtonian physics. Then you have the laws of thermodynamics that were discovered in the mid 1800s, 1850s, which found that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but is only transferred from one to another. The laws of thermodynamics also introduce entropy, which is defined as a molecular disorder governing the direction of irreversible physical processes that turn to chaos when left to run by themselves, or are not governed, regulated, or looked after. 1 second. The laws of thermodynamics also introduce entropy, which is defined as a molecular disorder governing the direction of irreversible physical processes that turn to chaos when left to run by themselves, or are not governed, regulated, or looked after. How interesting is this? Entropy. Now, since we know that everything that appears to be physical, is actually made up of subatomic particles that are vibrating very, very rapidly. The laws of thermodynamics say that the molecular disorder entropy occurs when the subatomic particles are left to run by themselves, or are not governed, or have consciousness. So there is this inevitable, irreversible physical chaos that occurs when these subatomic particles are not given the awareness. So, what is life? The subatomic particles or the awareness? Or is it both? Think about how a house starts to decay when there is no one living inside of it, but it will stay intact if people are inhabiting it. So you have the same structural materials, two houses, same structural materials, foundation, everything. Sorry, I'm reading this. Think about, okay, so you have the same structural materials, but one decays when empty and one thrives when given attention. What power our attention has then? It literally gives things life. So, there have been studies made where people who, houses that are abandoned, it will decay very rapidly, like exponentially. Whereas houses that are lived in just stay intact. I mean, unless you're a slob, they'll stay intact. So what power our attention is then? It literally gives things life. But at what cost? And what is the attention or consciousness that is mentioned? Also, is all attention good, or is there such thing as bad attention? And how can the world be at peace if things that are not given attention to die off or cause chaos? Side note, Newtonian physics is not able to explain how the speed of light works, or how objects can theoretically travel at the speed of light. Nor is Newtonian physics able to explain how subatomic particles interact. These are more explained by quantum physics and the theory of relativity at best. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, E equals mc squared, energy equals mass multiplied by the speed of light squared, states that the mass and energy are the same physical entity and can be interchangeable. So I'll say that again. E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass multiplied by the speed of light squared states that mass and energy are the same physical entity and can be interchangeable. Mass, this couch, and the air, the ether, are the same physical entity, and they can be changed. The energy can be changed interchangeably. So they are essentially different forms of the same thing. In other words, they are oneness. For example, if a ball is kicked like a soccer ball, in order for it to go faster, more energy must be applied. As the ball travels faster, it gets heavier, more gravitational pull. But until the ball reaches the speed of light, because nothing can travel faster than the speed of light, while it reaches the speed of light, its mass starts increasing, because the speed turns into the mass is interchangeable. The energy or speed transforms into mass. The theory of relativity also states that the speed of light is always a constant, regardless of the motion of the object or the observer in motion. But it distinguishes that the faster an object or observer is traveling, the slower the time passes by. So therefore, if one is traveling at the speed of light, time essentially becomes irrelevant. If someone is traveling at the speed of light, or something is traveling at the speed of light, time becomes irrelevant. Now, is there something that can travel at or close to the speed of light? Also, if mass and energy are interchangeable, and we know that everything is energy, then doesn't this imply that separation is an illusion? Because if these two things are interchangeable, according to the law of theory of relativity, then they must be one and the same, or there must be some form of invisible field of energy that connects everything that is naked to the human eye, right? I'll go more over this in the next episodes, but what this is saying is that, remember, keep in mind, electrons are not even physical. The basic building block of life that we perceive to be the building block of life aren't even, I don't know why this has lines. Just different shadow, whatever. The electrons that we perceive to be the building block of life aren't even physical. So, I'm really breaking it down for you guys. So, the air is energy, because everything is energy. Same thing with this couch, me. It's interchangeable. It's theory of relativity is interchangeable. Things are vibrating. They're vibrating different shapes, but they're still vibrating. So that means if they're vibrating, they're not solid. And if they're not solid, that means things can pass through it. Okay. Even quantum physics and the theory of relativity cannot fully explain the profoundness of subatomic particles and infinite possibilities. Why are we even to think that we would have the ability to even fathom infinite possibilities? I mean, think about it for a few seconds. Can you even process the capacity of infinite possibilities? You know, the new thing now is quantum computing. But infinite possibilities, I mean, like, it would have to be like computing all the time. And even if we got the results, by the time we review the results, it would have already changed. Oh, the odds of this happening are this, 0.0000175 blah, 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 whatever. Okay. Whatever, I don't know. So, by the time we see the results, it's different. So, does it even matter? Um, so, again, some very important things here. Entropy. So what I'm alluding to is that there is a higher consciousness that controls everything. Because if we're not consciously giving attention to ourselves, we're not consciously giving attention to a lot of the things that are happening in the world. What or who is? Because entropy happens when it's not given attention to. And because of the immense amount of variables that happen with the economy, with people, with all these different things. I mean, just, you know what I mean? Like traffic, there is already a quantum computing intelligence, computing harmony and love and guidance. It's already in place. And this has to be traveling at the speed of light, because it has to keep up with everything else. And for all we know, I mean, that's the fastest speed that can happen at, is the speed of light. The speed of light. I will do my best to explain this in the next episode.